So yesterday I recorded a lot of video to share with you what I did on my epic trip to Florida from Tucson, Arizona, and what I learned and what I decided. And it turns out that I had so much to share with you that it was too much for one video. It would have been over an hour. And so this first one is part one. Part one is, what I did, where I went, and showing you a whole bunch of scenes and video clips and everything from that. And then the second one will be what I discovered, what I learned, and what I decided. Okay, enjoy. So I've been wanting to shoot a video all about my trip to Florida in February, what I did, what I learned, what I've decided since I came back. So finally, I'm going to put this together with a lot of the footage that I took on that amazing trip. So if you're new to my channel, I'm Natalie, and after a pivotal family safari to Africa, October of 2024, I came back and made the decision that I wanted to sell my house, buy a van, taking my life and my business on the road living in a van. And so since then, it has been my journey buying this vehicle, Poppy, a Honda Element, and then taking several trips. And this video is all about that and what I've learned. So I left at the end of January, 25th of January, and I drove almost 5,000 miles. I was gone 5 weeks, and while I was there, well, of course, I drove all that distance. I met up with a couple of women on South Padre Island. I went to 3 different meetups in Florida. I spent a little bit of time in Georgia, and then I returned. So why did I do this? Well, first of all, because I want to do this. I want to transform my life and live in a vehicle. So that's the first reason. But secondly, I did it as a test trip. When I decided I wanted to live in a van, I was ready to sell my house immediately and just, go all in and do it, because that's kind of how I am. But through my own, kind of settling down and the advice of some family members and friends, I decided to slow down a little bit and take a test trip first. And so this trip was that. It was perfect for that. I wanted to find out what it was like traveling, living in a van, living in this vehicle, going to meetups, cooking, showering, everything. I wanted to experience all of it. And so that's what I did. First thing I did that was like a really good learning experience is I had a deadline to get to Florida by, I think it was the 1st or 2nd of February, because I was meeting a woman to share a campsite for 2 nights before the first meetup that I attended. And so I was like pressuring myself to get there fast, which was not good. And so what happened is I got a sore neck, a sore shoulder, sore leg, sore back, sore everything from driving so much every day and not stopping enough and not getting any exercise. So, that was great. I mean, I consider the whole thing a great learning experience. It was just too many hours driving, and I learned right away this is not good for health. But it was great to meet up with, so one woman that I had met at the women's RTR, Rubber Tramp Rendezvous in Quartzsite, we met there and kept in touch, and I connected with her on South Padre Island, and she was there with a friend, with another friend she's had for years, and so the three of us palled around, did things together, and I spent 2 nights, hanging out with them, and it was a blast. And one of the things that happened while I was there is my headlights, both of them, went out. I discovered the amazing generosity of some of the people at work at O'Reilly's, and I was able to get that fixed with no drama. And I actually shot a video about that. I'll link to that in the description below. And we, I mean, there were lots of wonderful things that happened, but one of the things was we saw and met these two incredible young women on the beach, South Padre Island, who were fishing. They were fishing in, a bathing suit, and they were so tough. I mean, the water was really cold, and they were so tough doing this. I was just completely impressed. And then we stopped and chatted with them briefly, and one of them offered to me chips and salsa, clearly homemade salsa. And I saw that they had on like false eyelashes and gorgeous makeup, and they just seemed like the whole package, these women. And this was my first experience of stealth camping in a town, because I stayed one night on a city street. Well, both nights were on a city street, but the second night there were like a whole, like all the, it was just a whole row on both sides of the street, right opposite the beach, of RVs and vans and, people staying there. So that was obviously much easier. But the other thing was I experienced overnighting in a whole bunch of different places. I stayed in a couple of truck stops. I stayed on that city street. I stayed, like I said, right next to the beach. I stayed at a deserted RV park. I stayed at a casino, in a casino parking lot. So let me backtrack a little bit. So other than South Padre Island, the main way that I learned where I could stay at night is an app called iOverlander. And at some point I'll probably make a video, do a training on how to use it, because it's excellent, and really easy to find places to overnight. And so this is how I found the deserted RV park. The truck stops I also found them on there, but they were really easy to see because, truck stops usually have big, huge signs that you can see from everywhere. And it was at a casino that was recommended by a bunch of people on iOverlander that I got what they call the knock. And the knock is where you're sleeping in your vehicle and someone knocks loudly on the door, the side, the window, or whatever, wakes you up and tells you that you have to move. And so this is like it's a dreaded thing. Like everybody who lives in a vehicle dreads getting the knock because, it's scary, it's disconcerting. You got to like do something in the middle of the night and you don't necessarily know who's out there knocking. And so I was in this casino parking lot. It was a place where a lot of people had said was good. And there was like an RV over one place and like a van, somewhere near me. So it looked like, okay, this is cool. Other people are overnighting here. And it was 1 a.m. Somebody knocked on the vehicle. The good thing was, like, I assumed that I would be full of fear if this happened to me. But the good thing was I wasn't. I don't know why, but I wasn't full of fear. And I could see out the, when I opened my little curtain, I could see out the front window that there were like flashing colored lights. So I knew it was an official vehicle, not just like some scary person. And so that happened. He told me that I could park in the casino parking lot, but it was a different one. And actually some guy drove me there, so I saw exactly where it was. But when I got there to the official legal parking lot, nobody was there at all. It was completely deserted. And even though he told me it was like patrolled or there was a camera system or something, it didn't look like patrolled or anything to me. And I just got that feeling in my gut, like, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to park here. And so I was still on my way to Florida. So I actually drove 2 hours from 1 to 3 a.m. Not ideal, but I was wide awake. Then slept for 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours at a rest stop. So rest area, that's another place. And then when I got to Florida, I stayed at a campground with a buddy of mine and 2 other women. We shared 2 sites right adjacent to each other, and that was a blast. And that was where I actually met Patty, who I did my very first van tour interview of, and I have a video of that, and I'll link that below. And so I experienced the joy of having water and electricity right at the campsite, hot showers, laundry, cheap laundry, inexpensive laundry, $1.50 for a wash load, $1.50 for dry. And, we paid the price. It was like $40 a night per site. So, that's not something that I would want to do regularly. I don't want to be paying $1,200 a month for, if you multiply 40 times 30, I don't want to be paying that to live on the road. But nevertheless, that was cool. So the next thing that I did is I went to my very first woman's meetup. And meetups in the women's van life world, at least the ones I attended in Florida, they are oftentimes 4 days, 3 nights long. And these are the ones that I went to. Like I only went to two, three. I went to 3. So I know it's a very small sample size of all the meetups that could happen out there, but I'm just going to tell you the way the ones were that I went to. So they were 4 days, 3 nights long. 2 of them that I attended, everyone parked in a parking lot of a kind of a campground, a state campground. And at first I thought it was going to be awful because we were literally parked in parking spaces right next to each other, like sardines. But it was actually really fun because you got to know your neighbors on either side of you. And it was very easy for everybody to get together for some kind of a gathering or games or, partying or whatever. And they were totally fun. So the first one that I went to was run by Lulu, who has a YouTube channel, Lulu's Way. And this was one of her meetups. It was totally fun. And I had not at that time, so I have an online business, and currently I'm teaching 2 online classes. And this means that every Tuesday I teach a live call on Zoom, and every Wednesday I teach a live call on Zoom. And both of these calls are related to people creating an online business. So I hadn't figured out Starlink, so I needed to go to a library and set up shop to teach these live calls. That meant that I had to miss a big chunk, like 2-3 hours of the meetup, both of those afternoons, which was not ideal. But of course, I'm committed to my students. That was a process. And what I realized is that I loved meeting other women, other van life women. Some of them have YouTube channels. They all have a unique vehicle. And I really loved interviewing and doing van tours with people. I shot a video of Jan, and I'll put the link below, in her Ford Transit Connect. And so we also have a meeting of other women who are on YouTube, who have a YouTube channel. So we had that, and about half or so of the women that came have a channel, and about half want a channel. So that was super fun. That was just a blast, and really enjoyed that. And another video that I shot there, which was so fun, and I want to do it more, was my What's for Dinner video, where I went around seeing people, I went around at dinner time seeing people who were cooking and asking them if they, were okay with being on YouTube. And I shot them, with whatever they were cooking. So that was a blast. I'll link below to that. And of course, it was super fun meeting Lulu. So after Lulu's meetup, I went to stay with a whole bunch of friends, like 15 people from that meetup or so. We were staying at a free, informal, kind of like a Boy Scout camp in the woods that had no facilities at all other than some picnic tables. And at that point, I still hadn't figured out Starlink, and I realized that I needed to get a library so that I could go and, be there to host my classes. So what I did is I drove north to southern Georgia, to where a town right on the, close to the border, where there was a library. And there I met like the nicest people, incredibly nice people. And while I was there, charging my power station and just doing a little work in preparation to teach my class the next day, they were having a retirement party for a librarian who had worked there for something like 30 or 35 years. And they like all the so there were a lot of people that worked in the system, you know, in the city, maybe the city system. And they went around and they invited everyone in the library to come to the retirement party where they had like a huge buffet of incredible food. And they came and personally invited me. And so after a while, you know, when I got hungry, I went and joined their party, and there was homemade pulled pork. There was like a huge array of pastries, which I don't eat because I don't eat gluten. But I had some pulled pork and I had some potato salad, and it was delicious. But the main thing was I met a woman who invited me to come and stay, park my vehicle, my Honda Element, in her on her property. They had a number of acres. I think it was 6 acres of land. And so I did that. I went there and she offered me laundry. They plugged me in so I had power and I had water, and it was incredible. And she and her husband were just so friendly and supportive and nice. And they actually had an RV, so they were familiar with doing this kind of thing. And they invited me more than once, but one evening I went in their house and watched the news with them while they had dinner. I'd already eaten, and we just had a lovely time. So that was incredible. And I also one day rented a kayak on the Okefenokee Swamp and just totally enjoyed spending a few hours kayaking on the swamp and having a beautiful time. The next meetup I was going to was one with Kim, out on a limb with Kim. It back down to the same place that Lulu's meetup had been. And I had about 5 days between those two where I could do stuff. And so I took my time and I spent a couple of nights in Jacksonville, and I stayed on city streets, which was very interesting, or like one time a little parking lot, you know, right on the beach. So this was lots of fun. I stayed a couple of nights. I had another meetup on Amelia Island, which is in Florida, which is a wonderful place, very interesting, fascinating. It was like claimed by the Spanish and the French and I don't know, like the British. And I mean, you know, they have all the different flags that have flown there over the decades. After that one, I decided to go back to Amelia Island because I knew I hadn't seen much of it. And so this is where I stayed in a parking lot uh, right behind a public library. And it was kind of in the fancy downtown of Amelia Island, which I hadn't seen. I had been in a more rural part when I went to the previous meetup. And so that was really fun. And I met a very cool guy who's living in his sailboat. And I met him while I was shooting my How I Brush My Teeth, my oral care video, which I'll also link below. And he was fascinating because he was kind of like me, you know, living in a van. Well, not yet because I'm still tethered to this house. But he was living in a sailboat, and he was on his way to, I believe, Barbados. And so we had a wonderful conversation. And he was saying that he had thought of, you know, also getting a van. So that was super fun. And then the morning that I was leaving Amelia Island and going to head toward Jacksonville, I was sitting there thinking I would really like to go to a farmer's market because I want to buy like some local things and, you know, instead of just going to a grocery store. And so I went online and I was looking at Google Maps and I was trying to find farmers markets, and it was frustrating, and you know, I couldn't find any good ones and was not having any luck. And so I finally just packed up and got in Poppy and headed out. And I didn't even know where I was going. I wasn't using my GPS. I was just driving, and I had the thought of, you don't even know where you're going. You know, you might end up I don't know if you can get lost when you don't know where you're going, but there was this voice in my head that said something about wasting time or, you know, getting lost or something because you don't know where you're going. I swear, 1 minute, and I look over, actually, it was on my right. I look over and think, was that a farmer's market? And I pulled over and backed up, and sure enough, there was a farmer's market, and it was like 7:30 or 8 in the morning, and they were still actually setting up. And so I stopped and I went to the farmer's market, and there were people selling fresh eggs, fresh produce, honey from local bees. Um, I bought these delicious bread and butter pickles woman had made. The dad was there. They had all these gorgeous vegetables, like heads of lettuce, this big. And when I asked about the eggs, and the father said, my son raises those chickens, or, raises the eggs, or whatever you do with eggs. And the son just lit up, so proud of his eggs. And these eggs were delicious. Some of those eggs were like, some of them are green and some of them are beige and some of them are white, just, and they were so delicious. The experience was wonderful of shopping there, but the main thing was I just felt so confident in my own inner guidance system that I could want something and just trust that it will come to me. So that was a really great experience on Amelia Island. And then what did I do? Then I joined, this was where I joined the National Planet Fitness, because LA Fitness is my preference, but they don't have it so much over in that part of the country. And so I got a national membership to Planet Fitness, and I started going to Planet Fitness. And Planet Fitness is totally cool. And I have a video about my search for showers, and how I found gyms along the route. I have a couple videos on that. But Planet Fitness is so great because they have, in addition to a fabulous gym, with all of the equipment, they also have red light therapy, whole body red light therapy that you can get in. They have tanning beds, they have massage beds and massage chairs. And so there's just all of this fun, totally cool equipment that you get to use when you have one of the, I think they call it the black membership. I don't know. Anyway, it's the highest level of the membership. So, but we had a group photo. There's a stairway going down to the lake. And so we had a group photo on the stairs, and everybody's on different parts of the stairs. And I was, I think, sitting on one of the stairs. And when I went to get up, when we were done with the photos and I went to get up, I found that my thighs were too weak to easily stand up. And I realized, oh, I have lost muscle strength on this trip, because the first like 7 days or something, while I was driving and meeting up with people, I wasn't doing any strength building. I wasn't even hardly doing any exercise at all. And then once we got to the meetups, I was doing a lot of walking, going all around and through the parking lot and to the bathroom and back and to the lake and all that stuff. But other than walking, I wasn't doing any strength training. And I'll tell you, at 72, I lose muscle like in a day. It's so fast. It's like the use it or lose it is truer now than it has ever been before. So, and thigh strength, leg strength is like the most critical to prevent falls and to be able to get up and to, increase longevity and all of that kind of thing, increase your health span. So I realized, oh, wow, I've got to rebuild that strength. So I started doing squats. And so a couple times when I went to Planet Fitness, when I was there, I did a workout and I actually used the gym, the weight lifting equipment. I did it totally differently coming home. I structured my days around going to a gym, going to the gym once or twice. So I plotted my trip. No, I just took the fast road. I mean, I just went the 10, the whole way. But I plotted it I stopped based on where there was a Planet Fitness or an LA Fitness, in the morning and in the evening. Like I didn't want to go to one first thing in the morning. I wanted to drive for an hour or so first. And at every time I stopped for gas, I did squats while I was pumping gas. Every time I saw a rest area, I went to the rest area, whether I had to pee or not. I went to the rest area and I did like a quick little high intensity impact training, where I did squats and heel lifts and marches, for like 6 minutes or something. And so I got a lot of exercise on the way home, and I felt so much better. I never got that neck pain. And actually, the trip just kind of whizzed by. It was so much more enjoyable getting exercise. It was incredible. All right. since you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you stuck it out through the whole video, so thank you. It really means a lot to me to have the support and the um, encouragement and even the advice of you watching my videos. And so in this next video, I'm going to share the 6 things that I love about van life and that I loved about the trips that I did, and also 6 things that I realized I need more of or that didn't really work for me. So that's going to be in the next video of Arizona to Florida and back, part 2. Thanks so much for watching.